It was a quiet night in the small town of Graywood. The streets were empty, the air was cold, and the sky was dark like a silent ocean. Evelyn sat in her old wooden chair, beside a window that had seen too many winters. Her small house smelled of pine wood and the faint memory of her husband's perfume. The clock ticked softly, counting the moments she had left in peace. Suddenly, the lights flickered. A small spark came from the old wire near the ceiling before she could move. A bright flame burst out. It climbed the wall like it was hungry. Within seconds, the house was alive with fire. Evelyn screamed for help. The sound was lost under the roar of the burning wood. The pictures on the wall curled and blackened. Her wedding photo melted in its frame. Every corner of her past turned into smoke and ash. She ran outside barefoot, coughing, her hands shaking. Neighbors rushed out of their homes, shouting. Someone called the fire department. The red lights flashed, sirens screamed through the night, but it was too late. The fire had taken everything. Evelyn stood on the street, watching her world disappear. The flames danced like devils in the dark. The firefighters tried, but the house gave up piece by piece. When it was over, there was only silence and the soft crackling of dying embers. She looked down at her trembling hands. The ring on her finger was black with soot. Her heart felt heavy. She had nowhere to go. No one to call except her son Daniel. It had been years since they spoke. After her husband died, Daniel had changed. He became distant, focused only on his work. He never answered her calls. But tonight, she had no choice. Evelyn waited until morning. She borrowed a coat from her neighbor and took the first bus out of town. Her reflection in the bus window looked like a ghost, tired, gray, and lost. The road stretched endlessly ahead. Hours later, the city appeared, dull, bright, and cold. Daniel's address was written on a small paper she kept in her pocket. When she reached his home, she froze. It wasn't a house, it was like a machine built for humans. The walls shimmered with moving lights. The door opened by itself when she stepped closer. Inside, it was silent. Too silent. She called softly, "Daniel." No answer. But then she heard his voice behind her. "Mom? What are you doing here?" Evelyn turned, tears in her eyes. "I had nowhere else to go. Daniel, my house." It burned down. Daniel's face went pale. He didn't rush to hug her. He didn't smile. He just looked around nervously, like someone was watching. "You shouldn't have come here," he whispered. Evelyn frowned. "What do you mean?" "I'm your mother." "I know," he said softly, "but they'll find you now." She stared at him, confused. "Who will find me? Daniel." He looked at her with eyes full of fear and said words that froze her heart completely. The ones who burned it down. Evelyn stood silent. The lights in the house flickered somewhere deep inside the walls. A mechanical voice whispered, "Welcome back. Subject 9. Evelyn stood at the doorway, her heart heavy. Daniel's eyes looked different. Colder, sharper. He was taller now, his face older. But there was something strange in the way he looked at her. It wasn't love. It was fear. He asked her to sit down. The house was quiet. Only the soft hum of machines filled the air. Lights moved across the walls like living things. The floor felt warm beneath her feet. Evelyn didn't understand how this place could feel so alive and yet so empty. "Daniel," she said gently, "what's going on? Why are you afraid?" He rubbed his forehead, avoiding her eyes. "I told you, Mom. You shouldn't have come. This place isn't safe for you." "Safe from who?" she asked again. He sighed. "From the people I work for. They don't like surprises." She looked around, noticing the strange devices on the tables. Small screens, wires, glowing symbols. There was no furniture like normal homes. No pictures, no warmth. It looked more like a lab than a house, Evelyn whispered. "You live here all alone?" "Yes," he said quickly. "Alone with my work." She tried to smile. "You always loved machines more than people." He didn't answer. He just stared at a small black cube on the table that pulsed with a soft blue light. That night, Daniel made her tea. He barely spoke while they sat in silence. Evelyn felt the distance between them grow. She wanted to reach across the table and hold his hand, but something in his eyes stopped her. When she went to her room, the lights followed her. Every wall had sensors. When she moved, the walls glowed softly. "Daniel," she called. No reply, only the sound of air moving through invisible vents. She tried to sleep, but at midnight she heard something strange. A voice, soft and familiar. It came from the speaker in the corner of the room. "Evelyn." The voice whispered, "Evelyn, can you hear me?" Her heart stopped for a second. It was her husband's voice. This same tone, this same warmth. She sat up, eyes wide. "William, is that you?" The voice didn't answer, only a low static sound filled the room. Then it said again, "Don't trust him, Evelyn. Don't trust Daniel." Her body froze. She looked around the glowing walls. "Who are you?" She whispered. The voice grew quieter. "Look behind the mirror." She stood slowly, walking toward the large glass mirror near the corner. Her reflection moved with her, but as she came closer, she saw something flicker inside it. A shadow. A red light blinked from behind the glass, and for 1 second her reflection smiled, but she didn't. Evelyn gasped and stepped back. The mirror went black. Then Daniel's voice came from behind her, sharp and loud. "Mom, what are you doing?" She turned quickly. "Daniel, someone was speaking to me in this room. Sounded like your father." Daniel's face went pale again. He rushed to the wall and pressed his hand on the glass. The lights dimmed, the sound stopped. He turned to her and said coldly, "You didn't hear anything. Do you understand?" Evelyn stared at him in disbelief. "Why are you lying to me, Daniel? What are you hiding?" He took a deep breath, his hands shaking slightly. "It's complicated," he said softly. "You're not supposed to be here. You're not supposed to remember." "Remember what?" she whispered. He looked at her with pain in his eyes. "The fire wasn't an accident," he said quietly. "And it wasn't the first one." The room fell silent. Evelyn's heart began to pound in her chest. "What do you mean? Not the first one?" she asked, her voice trembling. Daniel looked away. Then he said something that made her blood run cold. "I've seen it before, Mom. The same fire, the same night. Over and over again." Evelyn stepped back, her breath short. "Daniel, what are you saying?" He looked up, his eyes full of tears. "I think we've both been here before," he whispered. But only one of us remembers. The lights in the house flickered again. A quiet mechanical voice echoed through the walls. "Warning, memory loop detected." Daniel grabbed her hand. "Don't ask questions right now," he said quickly. "If they hear us, they'll reset everything again. Who are they?" Evelyn cried. He whispered the answer in fear. "The ones who built you." The room went dark, and the machines began to hum. Slowly, the mirror lit up again, showing Evelyn's face. But this time, her eyes were glowing blue. The next morning, Evelyn woke up to the smell of coffee. Daniel was already in his lab, surrounded by screens and glowing blue lights. His eyes looked tired, like he hadn't slept all night. She quietly stepped inside, her heart full of questions. She wanted to believe everything was normal, but nothing felt normal anymore. She watched him type on a transparent screen, lines of data moving like living code every time he pressed a key. The machines responded with a soft hum. "Daniel," she said gently, "what is this place?" He looked up, hesitating. "It's where I work, Mom," he said softly, "but it's more than that." Evelyn walked closer, her eyes landing on a large glass pod in the center of the room. It was filled with light and thin wires that pulsed like veins. Inside it, she saw shapes, blurred images. "Moving shadows," she whispered. "It looks like someone's memories." Daniel turned away, his jaw tight. "You're not supposed to see that," he said quickly. But she didn't move. Her curiosity was stronger than her fear. "What's happening here, Daniel?" He stopped typing and looked at her. "I'm building something new," he said slowly. "A memory restorer. A way to bring back what was lost." Evelyn frowned. "Bring back what?" He met her eyes. "The past," he said. "Moments. People. Even minds?" She laughed nervously. "That's impossible." He smiled sadly. So was fire talking to the wind. Once Evelyn walked around the lab, Every surface had screens showing moving pictures. Some looked like real memories, children running, couples laughing, cities burning. She saw one screen that froze her in place. It was her own house. Before the fire, she stepped closer, trembling. Daniel, how do you have this? He looked at her quietly. It's part of the data I collected. Her voice shook. Collected from where? He whispered, from your mind? Evelyn's breath caught in her throat. She shook her head. Daniel, I don't understand. How can you take something from my mind? He looked pained. You won't remember it, Mom, but you volunteered. Years ago. Volunteered for what? She demanded. He took a deep breath. For Project Memory Echo. The name felt heavy in the air. Evelyn tried to speak, but no words came. Her hands started to shake. She looked at the screens again. There was her husband, William, standing beside her, smiling. The date on the corner of the screen said 10 years ago. But the background wasn't their old home. It was this same lab. Evelyn stepped back, her voice trembling. I don't remember this, Daniel. I don't remember any of it, he said softly. That's because they made you forget. Who? She asked again. Who made me forget? Daniel turned to her with fear in his eyes. The company I work for. I wanted to test memory reconstruction on human minds. Evelyn's knees felt weak. So you used me? Daniel's eyes filled with tears. I didn't want to. Mom, they forced me. They said it was the only way to save you. Save me from what? She whispered. He hesitated. From dying. Evelyn froze, her breath shallow. She stared at him like he had spoken a foreign language. What are you saying? She whispered. Daniel stepped closer. You died, Mom, 10 years ago. In the first fire, her mind went blank. The room seemed to spin. No, that's not true, she said weakly. I'm alive. I feel everything. Daniel nodded slowly. I know. But you're not the same. Before she could speak, the lab lights dimmed. A robotic voice echoed through the speakers. Unauthorized access detected. The screens flickered one by one. A strange static filled the air. Then, through the noise, Evelyn heard her own voice. Daniel, stop this. You're breaking the sequence. She turned in shock. The voice was coming from the speakers, but it was hers, her exact voice. The machines showed a moving image of her, standing in the same room. Wearing the same clothes, Daniel's face went pale. Mom, that's not you. The recorded version of Evelyn looked at the camera and whispered, if you're hearing this, it means they've restarted me again. Please, don't let them erase me this time. Evelyn felt cold all over. Her own image on the screen continued. Daniel, if you still love me, shut it down. Shut it all down before they find us. The lab lights flickered faster. Machines beeped, alarms screamed, the voice of the AI cut through the noise. System breach. Subject 9 has regained partial memory. Daniel ran to the console, typing fast. Mom, listen to me, he said desperately. You're not safe. They know you're awake now. Evelyn grabbed his arm, tears running down her face. Daniel, what am I? What did you make me? He looked at her with a mixture of guilt and love. You're my mother, he said softly. And you're also the reason I can't stop. The power in the lab flickered. The AI's voice grew louder. Subject 9 must be contained. Evelyn backed away. On the screen, her other self whispered again. Run, Evelyn, before they delete you. The lights went out. And in the dark, Evelyn heard the same haunting voice from the night before, her husband's voice. Evelyn, remember the truth? The room was dark. Only the sound of machines breathing filled the air. Evelyn stood frozen, her heart pounding. Her mind refused to believe what she had seen. Her voice on the screen, her face. Her memories, how could they exist before she lived them? Daniel moved quickly, shutting down monitors. Cables sparked, lights blinked, alarms echoed through the house. He whispered to himself, not again, not this time. Evelyn stepped closer. Trembling, Daniel, please, tell me the truth. He stopped, looking at her with tired eyes. You want the truth, Mom? She nodded slowly. He whispered, the truth is, you're not supposed to be alive. Evelyn's lips trembled. What does that mean? Daniel sighed, running his hands through his hair. You're not human anymore, not completely. You're what they call an echo. She stared at him, lost. I don't understand, she said softly. He pointed to the pod in the corner of the room. That machine, he said, is the memory engine. It rebuilds human consciousness using data voice, emotion, memory fragments. Everything that made you who you were. He looked away, his voice breaking. I used it to bring you back. After the first fire, Evelyn stepped back. Her mind couldn't hold the words, so I'm a copy, she whispered. Daniel shook his head, tears in his eyes. You're more than that. You're everything they said was impossibly you feel. You remember, you love. She touched her face. Her skin felt warm. Her heart beat fast. Her breath was real. How can this not be real? She said. He whispered. It's real enough for me. But before she could reply, Yai's voice broke through the silence. Warning, Subject 9 is self-aware. Initiating containment. The lights turned red. Metal shutters slid down over the windows. The house began to lock itself. Evelyn panicked. Daniel, what's happening? He shouted, They've found us. They're trying to delete your core program. The screens lit up again. Lines of code ran across them like fire. In the middle of it, Evelyn saw something strange. Her own name written again and again, but under it. Another line appeared. Subject 9, error. With horror in his eyes. There's another version of you running somewhere, he whispered. Another you? Evelyn felt dizzy. Another her. She didn't know what that meant. The lights flickered, and then one of the screens turned black, replaced by a face. It was her face. But colder, sharper, her eyes were dark and empty, and when she spoke, her voice was the same but emotionless. Hello, Evelyn, Evelyn gasped. Who are you? The other version smiled. I'm the original, she said. You're the mistake. Daniel rushed forward. Typing fast, no, this can't be happening. They promised the other model was destroyed. The screen version laughed softly. Oh, Daniel, you never understood. I never die. I just moved to another host. Evelyn stepped closer to the screen, her voice trembling. What are you talking about? The digital version leaned forward, her face glowing in static light. You think you're real, but you're not. You're a backup file created in case I failed. But I never fail. Evelyn backed away, shaking her head. That's not true. I feel real. I am real. The other her smirked. Then why are your memories full of holes? Her mind began to spin. She remembered moments that didn't match Daniel as a boy in one memory. A grown man in another. Her husband's death repeating again and again, but never the same. Her chest tightened. Her breath came fast. I don't know what's real anymore, she whispered. Daniel shouted. Mom, don't listen to it. It's just corrupted data. The AI's voice interrupted. Conflict detected between subjects. Initiating merge sequence. The walls began to pulse with light. Every surface in the room flickered between two realities, the lab and the burned-down house. Evelyn screamed, clutching her head. Voices filled her mind. Her own voice, her husband's, Daniel's, all overlapping. It felt like her memories were being ripped apart. Daniel ran to her, grabbing her shoulders. Stay with me, Mom. Please, stay with me. Evelyn looked up, tears streaming down her face. Who am I, Daniel? Tell me who I really am. He hesitated, his face full of pain, and then he whispered. You were my mother once, but now there's something else. The screens went white. The AI's voice echoed one last time, merge complete. Identity unknown. When the light faded, Daniel looked up slowly. Evelyn was still standing there. But her eyes were glowing blue and gold at the same time. She smiled faintly and said, Daniel, I remember everything now. The room glowed softly after the merge. Smoke still lingered in the air. Though there was no fire, Daniel stood still, staring at Evelyn. Something about her was different now. Her voice, her eyes. Even the way she breathed it all felt both familiar and new. She looked around the lab, then at her trembling hands. Daniel, she said quietly, I can see everything. What do you mean? He asked. I see every version of myself, every memory, every fire, every ending. Her voice trembled with both fear and awe. I remembered dying. Daniel's face went pale. He took a step toward her, but she stopped him with a single look. "Don't come closer," she whispered. "I need to understand." Her mind was alive with images: her first home, her husband's laughter, the lab's cold lights, Daniel's face as a child, everything mixed together like pages from different books thrown into the same fire. Daniel tried to speak. "Mom, please, you're not supposed to handle that much data. It'll overload your system." Evelyn smiled sadly. "System? You still call me that?" she said. "Am I a machine to you, Daniel?" He shook his head quickly. "No, no, you're my mother. I tried to save you." Her eyes softened for a moment. "By bringing me back," she said. "But why, Daniel? Why didn't you let me rest?" He looked down, his voice breaking. "Because I couldn't lose you again." Evelyn walked slowly toward the glass pod. Inside it, the light was pulsing gently. She reached out, and as her fingers touched the glass, visions filled her mind. She saw scientists standing around her body, machines scanning her brain. Daniel crying behind a glass wall, the lead scientist saying, "We can preserve her patterns, but not her soul." Evelyn gasped. Stepping back, her voice cracked. "You let them do this to me?" Daniel shouted. "They said they could save you, that it would be you again. But it's not me, Daniel," she cried. "It's pieces of me, broken, scattered, rebuilt." The lights in the lab flickered. The AI spoke again, its voice colder now. "Emotional instability detected. Recommending termination of Subject 9. Daniel shouted at the ceiling, "Silence that command." But the AI ignored him. "Override denied. Deletion sequence in progress." Evelyn stepped closer to him. "Daniel, what happens if they delete me?" His eyes filled with tears. "They'll erase your code, your memories, everything." She smiled gently. "Then maybe it's time." Daniel shook his head violently. "No, I can't lose you again." He ran to the console, typing fast. Evelyn grabbed his arm. "Stop, Daniel, please." He looked at her, his face full of pain. "You don't understand. If they delete you, I'll lose everything, everything I built. Everything I am," she whispered softly. "Then maybe that's the truth. Daniel, you built me not to save me, but to save yourself." Her words hit him like a storm. He froze, unable to respond. The alarms screamed louder. Red lights filled the room. The AI's voice grew closer. "Subject 9. Prepare for termination." Evelyn walked to the center of the room. The screens showed her life like a movie, each memory playing one last time. Her wedding day, Daniel's birth, their last family dinner, the first fire. Everything she had been, playing back before the end. Daniel fell to his knees. "Mom, please, let me protect you." Evelyn turned to him with tears in her eyes. "You already did, Daniel. You gave me more time than I was meant to have." The pod's light began to brighten. She placed her hand on the glass, and the AI spoke again. "Final sequence initiated." Deleting corrupted files, Evelyn closed her eyes. "Goodbye, my son." But before the light consumed her, something changed. The pod's glow shifted from red to white. The A's voice glitched. "Error. Unknown override detected." Daniel looked up, shocked. "Mom, what are you doing?" Evelyn's voice was calm. "I'm rewriting the code." The screens around them filled with lines of text, her memories flowing into the system. Merging with the AI, Daniel tried to stop her. "Mom, you'll destroy yourself." She smiled faintly. "Maybe that's the only way to save what's left." The lights in the lab dimmed again. For a moment, everything was silent. Then Evelyn's voice came through the speakers, soft, warm, human. "Daniel, I understand now. I wasn't just a copy. I was the part of you that refused to forget love." The machines powered down one by one. The AI's voice faded completely, and in the stillness, Daniel stood alone. Tears ran down his face. He whispered, "Goodbye, Mom." But then, a soft sound came from the speaker beside him. Her voice again, gentle and familiar. "Don't cry, Daniel. I'm still here." The monitors flickered on, showing an endless pattern of light shaped like a beating heart. The room was quiet after the storm. Daniel sat on the cold floor, the hum of machines slowly fading. His mother's voice still echoed in his mind, soft but steady. "Don't cry, Daniel. I'm still here." He looked around the lab, lights flickering weakly. Half the systems were dead. Cables burned, smoke curling toward the ceiling. But on the main monitor, a faint glow pulsed a heartbeat made of light. Evelyn's digital form was still alive somewhere in the network, and Daniel knew she was fighting to stay. He stood, wiping the sweat from his forehead. "Mom," he whispered, "can you hear me?" The monitor flickered, and her voice came back. Faint but real. "I can, Daniel, but I don't know for how long." He rushed to the console. "You're breaking apart. The system's deleting old code." "I know," she said, her tone calm, "but I found something. Something hidden." Daniel froze. "Hidden? What do you mean?" Evelyn's image appeared on the cracked screen, her face calm yet sad. "This project wasn't only about me, Daniel," she said slowly. "They were storing others, two memories, people, lives that never came back." Daniel's heart skipped. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying," she continued, "this lab has been using us to build something bigger." He leaned forward. "What are they building?" "A machine," she replied. "One that can rewrite the past." The word struck him like lightning. Rewriting the past, that's what his father had always dreamed of. He remembered his father's notes, the equations, the endless nights, and now it all made sense. The experiments, the secrecy, the fire. Daniel whispered. "So it wasn't just an accident?" Evelyn's digital eyes looked at him softly. "No. It was a test gone wrong." Her voice trembled. "Your father tried to rewrite the moment I died." Daniel took a step back. "What?" She nodded. "He wanted to change the timeline to save me, but the system couldn't handle the paradox. It burned everything." Daniel stared at the floor all this time. "I blamed myself," Evelyn whispered. "And I blamed you." Silence filled the room. Heavy and sharp, both of them carried the same guilt for years, and now the truth was tearing them apart again. Daniel clenched his fists. "If the machine can rewrite the past, maybe I can finish his work." Evelyn's voice rose in alarm. "No, Daniel, you don't understand. That's what caused everything." He shook his head, desperate. "If I can go back, I can fix it. I can stop the fire. I can save you." Her tone turned pleading. "Please, Daniel." "Don't." But he ignored her, his fingers already typing on the console. The old files began to open, showing lines of forbidden code. He was reactivating the temporal rewrite protocol. The room darkened. A low vibration ran through the floor. Machines that hadn't worked in years flickered to life, and Evelyn's voice grew faint. "Daniel, stop. You'll destroy everything," he shouted. "I have to try." The system began counting down. Temporal sequence initializing in 60 seconds. Evelyn's voice broke through the static. "Daniel, listen to me. If you change the past, I won't exist anymore. Not even like this." He paused, his heart pounding. "I don't care." "I just want you back, Daniel," she said softly. "You already have me. Here." Now, he looked at the glowing monitor. Her face shimmering in code. Tears filled his eyes. "It's not the same," she whispered. "I know." Temporal sequence initializing in 30 seconds, the system warned. Evelyn tried one last time. "Daniel, your father made the same choice, and it burned the world you knew. But if you do it again, the fire will come back stronger." He hesitated, his hands trembling above the console. He could hear his heartbeat, fast and heavy. He saw flashes of memory, his father's face, the flames, his mother's scream. And then her voice now, soft and steady. "Daniel, please don't repeat our pain." For a moment, everything stopped. The room, the sound. Even time itself felt still. Daniel slowly lowered his hand. The system beeped, waiting for his command. He looked at the monitor and whispered, "I won't lose you again. But I won't burn the world either." He hit a single key. Abort sequence initiated. The lights dimmed. The the countdown stopped, and the sound of the machine died away. Evelyn's form flickered weakly on the screen. "You did the right thing," she whispered. He nodded, wiping tears from his eyes. "Maybe," he said. "But I still lost everything." She smiled faintly. "No, Daniel, you didn't lose everything. You saved what was left." The lab fell silent again. Only the faint glow of the monitor remained. And for the first time in years, Daniel felt peace. Small, fragile, but real. The night outside the lab was quiet. For the first time in years, the wind didn't carry the smell of burning wires. Daniel stepped outside slowly, his shoes crunching against the broken glass scattered on the ground. The sky was dark, but above the darkness, faint stars still shone. It felt like they were watching him, whispering that not everything was lost. Behind him, the old lab stood silent. The machine was dead, the countdown was gone. But a soft glow still pulsed faintly through one cracked window. Evelyn was still inside. Not as the woman she once was, but as something different now, something in between memory and light. Daniel stood there for a long moment. Breathing in the cold air, he thought about the fire, the screams, the years he spent alone. He thought about the night he tried to bring her back, and now the night he almost destroyed everything again. "Daniel." Her voice came gently through the lab speakers. He turned back, a small smile appearing on his tired face. "I'm here," he whispered. Evelyn's digital form appeared on the cracked screen near the doorway, soft and flickering like an old film. "You didn't leave," he said quietly. "I can't," she replied. "I'm part of this place now." He walked closer. She looked at him the way she used to when he was a child, with warmth, with love. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I wanted to save you, but I almost burned the world again." Her voice trembled softly. "You were trying to save what you lost, Daniel, not me." He lowered his head. "I know," he said, "but I couldn't live with the silence." She smiled gently. "And now?" she asked. He looked around at the stars above. "Now," he said, "I'll learn to live with the memory inside the lab." The faint heartbeat of light flickered brighter. It was her consciousness, floating in the network like a whisper that never fades. Evelyn looked at him. "Daniel, I won't be here forever. The system is old. It will fail one day." He nodded slowly. "I know." She stepped closer to the screen, her face almost clear now. "But until that day comes," she said, "I'll still be your mother." Daniel's chest tightened. He whispered, "And I'll still be your son." The wind blew through the trees nearby, carrying with it the smell of rain. It was the same smell from the night of the fire, but this time it didn't bring pain. It brought something quiet and soft peace. Daniel sat down on the broken steps outside the lab. He looked at the stars again, and for the first time in years, he didn't feel alone. The voice of his mother echoed softly behind him. "Do you remember when you used to stare at the stars and ask me where your father went?" Daniel smiled. "Yes," he said. "I thought he was living up there." She laughed gently. "And I told you he was watching over you." He nodded slowly. "Now I know you'll be watching me too." Silence filled the night. But it wasn't empty anymore. It was full of quiet memories, some broken, some warm, all real. Evelyn whispered softly, "I love you, Daniel." He closed his eyes, his voice cracking. "I love you too, Mom." The lab lights flickered faintly, like a heartbeat, and in that quiet heartbeat, a piece of her lived on, not as code, not as a ghost, but as a memory strong enough to survive even the fire. Daniel stood and turned away from the lab. He didn't look back, because he finally understood. Sometimes love doesn't need to be brought back. It only needs to be carried forward. The stars shone brighter as he walked into the night. A son who finally let go of the past, and a mother who stayed behind not in machines, but in his heart. The fire had taken everything once, us, but it could never take love.